So, starting off with the reunion, you and Kurt Smith recently got back together, and the new Tears for Fears album is on the way. How's that shaping up?
How's it shaping up?
Well, it's been lots of stops and starts, simply because he lives in Los Angeles.
Right. Have you been over there recording?
Yeah, I mean, we started off, I went over there, he came over here, I went over there, but he's got 2 young daughters. In fact, one is, the youngest is not even 1 year old yet.
Right.
And so we've kind of settled on me sort of going over there. And I'm due to go mid-February for about 4 months to finish it all off. But we're doing it in, someone's house, in their sort of garage. It's a lot more relaxed, it's a lot more fun, and it's a lot cheaper. Because we're sort of renowned for spending God knows how much money making records. So.
What was the catalyst for you both to start talking again? And was it a case of sort of putting aside the personal differences that contributed to the split up, I think, about 10 years ago?
Well, yeah, I mean, there was obviously a lot of water under the bridge by the time we actually started talking together. But, you see, we'd always had ongoing business commitments and mutual friends. So we couldn't quite sort of separate totally. And I had to do something for him, some sign off on some piece of paper or something, and he sent me a fax saying, thanks a lot, I don't have your number or something, or words to that effect, and give me a call. And I thought, oh God, do I? So what I did, I faxed him back my home number, and then he rang up the next day, which was very strange.
Right.
Very strange indeed. But as I said, we got mutual friends, and the next time he was in the country, we got together, had a meal, and realised that we was both sort of grown up, and all the sort of angst and differences had evaporated.
It's all water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Now, since you've been working together again, does it sort of feel like the old days?
No, not really, no, because I think when you're young and starting off, you have all these dreams and ambitions, and you're not quite sure exactly what you're going to achieve. And it's all a fantastic journey. Now we're obviously, a lot older and a lot more sort of settled, a bit more cynical, and it doesn't feel like it was at all. We don't feel like we're trying to establish ourselves or anything like that, or make a breakthrough. We don't feel like that. We feel like this is what's the word?
New beginning?
Not a new beginning. Just kind of like a nice way of ending it all.
You did a couple of Tears for Fears albums on your own.
Yeah.
Had you missed working with Kurt as someone to bounce songwriting and that off?
No, because one of the reasons we split in the first place was because we weren't communicating, and so I wasn't bouncing ideas off him. I was merrily going on my way and doing exactly what I wanted to do in the end. And so, therefore, it was quite simple working without him. But, you see, the thing is, the problem, I think, I pursued my own artistic ambitions, and that led me away from writing sort of big hits with catchy melodies, because I wasn't interested in it. Getting back with him, he's not interested in something that doesn't stick in his brain, and he's forced me in many ways to write very strong melodic songs.
So he sort of brings in the pop sensibilities?
Yes, he does, yeah.
Right, okay. And was it easy to sort of slip back into writing songs together?
Well, the thing is, when we were together in the first place, I did the bulk of the writing pretty much on my own. However, now, we're all, myself, Kurt, and a guy called Charlton Pettus, all sit together in a room, and with acoustic guitars, and it's very, very dull. But when you make a breakthrough, it's a song which has sort of sound structures. You see what I'm saying?
So what can fans expect from the new material?
Well, I think there's no great soul searching like the old days. It's just very strong melodic pop music with obviously a lot of maturity.
And does it sound like sort of classic Tears for Fears updated for the 21st century?
Some people say that, yeah. Some people who've heard it record companies identify the sound immediately as something highly recognisable. But I think it's kind of got very classic structures as well. So there's lots of guitar and a kind of familiarity to it that's not really 80s based. It's more goes back further than that.
Are the arrangements as progressive as some of the songs on The Hurting?
No, we've been trying specifically not to be too lengthy in the arrangements. We've actually tried to keep it succinct.
Okay. Can you reveal any of the song titles?
Yeah. Call Me Mellow, and Who Killed Tangerine, and Killing with Kindness. Goes on and on, really.
And would you say that you were as excited about this material as you have been about the previous stuff you've worked on together?
Yes, no, I feel very strongly about it. I mean, we actually have an album title as well, if you're interested. It's called Everybody Loves a Happy Ending.
So you've recently signed a deal with Arista Records.
Yeah.
What made you decide on them, and is there a release date for the new album?
Well, we had a few meetings with people, and there wasn't a lot of difference in terms of what people were offering us deal-wise. We picked Arista BMG simply because that would be a fresh start record company-wise. Simply because there are 5 major companies, and we'd been with Universal through Mercury before. So if we'd gone back to them, anyone in Universal, we would have been dealing with a lot of the old people. I was signed to Sony for one album, so in terms of a fresh start, there weren't a lot of options. BMG Arista have a very strong base in Europe and America, and some of the other companies didn't. And the guy that signed us, L.A. Reid, has got strong pop sensibilities. He's really interested in hits.
He's done the stuff with Babyface.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he also signed, what's her name? Avril Lavigne. So he's got a very strong top 40 sense, and I think he's keen that we make that kind of record again, and not just something that's arty.
And it's not something that's just going to appeal to the fans, it will actually bring you new fans.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, apart from your solo record, Tomcat Screaming Outside,
yeah,
what have you personally been up to in the intervening years since the last year?
I've produced, apart from the Tears albums, and Tomcats, I produced a girl called Emiliana Torini. She's from Iceland, she's a singer, and it's on Bjork's label. So we did that, and that's a lovely album. Very happy with that. And I've actually been doing this Tears thing for 2 years now, believe it or not, on and off.
What, the actual reunion, as it were?
Yeah.
What do you think of the current state of the music scene?
Well, it's hard for me to criticise because I'm in my 40s now. I'm 41, and it's like that kind of music is not for me. It's not made for me. It's made for younger people. And likewise, there's some great stuff out there. I love Coldplay and a lot of bands, but don't particularly. I listen to Top of the Pops, and I just don't get it.
Did you not find that when you were sort of into Fizz at the time with the sort of the pop stuff that was going around then? Well,
I sort of lost interest in the pop stuff in my mid-20s when we kind of became the market, if you see what I'm saying. I lost interest and started listening to sort of, just excellent artists.
And what do you think of the current trend for 80s bands to get back together and go out on the reunion circuit?
Well, it's been threatening, hasn't it, for a long time. We've been asked for years to sort of get back together and do one of these horrible reunion tours, but we've always refused because we don't really, we never felt part of, a lot of those, we never felt like we were like a lot of those bands at the time. We felt we were sort of being a little more creative, and therefore we wouldn't want to be lumped in with them now.
Well, I think a lot of that stuff was more sort of throwaway school disco stuff, wasn't it, really, rather than your material?
Yeah.
Have you heard some of the recent Tears for Fears cover versions, such as the metal band Disturbed's cover of Shout, and Gary Jules' take on Mad World featuring Donnie Darko?
Yes.
And what do you think of those?
Well, I had to sign off on the Disturbed song because they actually changed the lyrics. So whenever anyone changes something, they have to ask permission to actually cover it. And I liked it. I mean, I always wondered how you could do Shout without all those sort of that rich arrangement, and they managed to do it, and they did it well, and it sounded quite convincing. The Gary Jules Mad World, I much prefer to our own.
Really?
To be honest with you, I just think it's amazing, and it's so strange. I wrote that song when I was 18, and it was when I really identified with children as being victims, and and that kind of stuff. Now I'm a parent. I don't quite see it that way. And the funny thing is that my youngest son, who's 8, who's a pretty good singer himself, quickly learned the song, the Mad World lyrics, and to the Gary Jules version. He'd never heard us. And it was amazing to see this little child sing back to me the lyrics that I wrote so long ago.
And how did you feel about how the song and Head Over Heels were used in the film?
Well, it's superb. I mean, it's very flattering for me.
Okay. So how does it feel to have contemporary artists such as Billy Corgan, Manson and Wyclef Jean cite the band as an influence?
Well, again, I mean, I always say the mind boggles, because I can never hear any influence in anyone's music, but it's very flattering.
Does it annoy you that the song you're best known for, arguably best known for, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, is probably the best known, rather than one of the band's less poppy commercial tracks?
Yeah, but it's really funny, because I would say that was true to some degree, but there was recently a poll on one of the radio stations in London, and they were playing off one of our tracks against the other, and it was playing off Mad World against Shout, and it was Mad World that had won.
Really?
So it's interesting. I think over time that maybe the lesser-known tracks become more legendary.
What do you think have been some of the highlights of your career so far?
Well, lots of things, really. I mean, generally, specific songs where I think that is fantastic. I mean, when we finished Woman in Chains on the Seeds of Love album, I thought, Jesus Christ, I was really, really in love with it. There have been other times, like playing certain gigs. I remember being on the tour promoting Raoul and the Kings of Spain, walking on stage in Salt Lake City as it's about 3,000-seater, very classical auditorium, and most of the people between, I guess, the ages of 25 and 40, and they were screaming so loud that it was just breathtaking. And I really thought that maybe Elvis had just walked on or something. It really was. I thought, this is a memory I will take with me to the grave. It's incredible.
What about getting the #1 album in America?
Well, the problem with that was, we were being worked so hard that it all seemed, I think had I been sat at home watching the TV on the sofa, I would have been very chuffed. But we were working non-stop on tour, so I didn't quite get it. Didn't sink in.
So it's just sort of passed you by, is it?
Totally, yeah.
You mentioned a minute ago, Woman's in Chains means a lot to you.
Yeah.
What of the other songs you've written have meant the most to you, and why?
Well, I love the whole Raoul album, for me, because I'd always been struggling to write a complete album, not just an album with hit singles, but something that worked lyrically from start to finish. So I particularly like things like Los Reyes Católicos and the actual song Raoul and the Kings of Spain as well.
Now, Kurt lives in LA,
yep.
But you still reside near your hometown of Bath.
Yep.
Is it important for you to stay close to your roots?
Well, it's one of those things that you choose to do, isn't it? But they're very, very subconscious choices. So I guess the answer is yes, because I love the countryside, absolutely love the greenness of everything. LA is like fun, but for a little while. But there's a certain lack of culture you feel, And I guess I guess there's a side of me that feels absolutely ordinary. And I like going into Sainsbury's and stuff like that.
Keeps you grounded.
Yeah, and just driving around feeling, insignificant. It's wonderful.
Okay, I've just got one last question.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to the many Tears for Fears fans around the world who are eagerly awaiting the new album?
Well, it'll certainly be worth the wait.